Okay. Hey, everybody. My name's Irini, and I am the teacher consultant for the English departments around Australia. I'm really excited to do this webinar with you guys on poetry perfection. Got a bit of a tech issue here. Just going to mute that. Awesome. So what I'm here to show you is our first ever poetry slam. We are here in English attempting at creating a little competition per term that focuses students' efforts on creating a text that is unique with their skill set. So for this term, we're looking at the poetry slam, and we'd really love if your students had the opportunity to enter. If they're not using EP at the moment, please feel free to click on this button and register your students. But I'm going to show you as a teacher using EP how you can actually facilitate some poetry in the classroom using our lesson builder. So if we head back up to the top, you'll see that in the content library, the Poetry Slam is available through the Poetry Slam Challenge folder, and it is really as simple as clicking on the teacher's guide to find out a bit more information on how to implement that into your classroom. But for your students, it is clicking into this lesson and then reading through our little history on a poetry slam and submitting their written and vocal transcripts of their poems. So that's how to get involved with our slam for this term. If you're looking at integrating poetry into your classroom using EP, we do already have quite a few lessons that revolve around poetry techniques, but something that's super easy to do is clicking on the edit button in your content library and using your private workspace to create a new lesson. So if I go to the add content button, you'll see that we have a series of options here for how to add content into your private workspace. And essentially our smart lesson option gives us the ability to build a custom lesson. Now, the cool thing about our custom lesson builder is it is really simple to use. So if we were to call this lesson Poetry Perfection, you can see I'm just filling in the areas of this template. I have 3 different areas here that I can add. I can add an information slide, some multiple choice questions, and an extended response section. I think for poetry, one of the most exciting sections of our lesson builder is the extended response component. So for our purposes, I'm just going to remove the quiz section. And so now we've got an information section and an extended response section. Something that might be really cool to try with your students is kicking off your lesson with an information slide, and you might call this poetry practice. We do have a really wide selection of images here. So let's pop our search term into the box and select an image that we think will be engaging for our students. That's quite nice. We'll pop that one in there. We'll add another slide here to give them some instructions. So we'll go with maybe a side-by-side slide. Now, this is just an example of a way to use the system as a supplement to what you've already got in class. You may already have a booklet of poetry. You may already be watching perhaps a film to do with poetry, or you may have seen some slam poetry videos on YouTube. A cool idea, if you do want to integrate those videos, is to just integrate them straight into the slides. Alternatively, you can scan your poetry and upload them as an image. But let's say, for example, that you're a teacher who's already got something and you're really thinking about using that extended response component. You can see that there are 3 options here. The student can type their response, they can use the sound recorder, or they can use the scratch pad. For our purposes, I'm going to show you the sound recorder. In the sound recorder slide, you have the option to record an audio prompt alongside the student using the recorder function to record themselves responding. So you can use this for a bit of a listening style task. For example, yourself or some of the other staff members recording a poem and having the students give their feedback verbally. You can also use the extended response component to record yourself using some audio here in the question section, and then the students type up their response. So there are a couple of ways that students can really interact with you and interact with the poetry by either listening to it, giving you their verbal feedback, or perhaps if you wanted to even include in the question section a YouTube video, they could be listening to the poetry or watching a video to do with some poetry and then responding. The really fantastic thing about the lesson builder is when you're happy, you can save your lesson. It's just giving me a little warning here because I haven't filled out all our components. Pop something in there and we'll look back at our long response as well. We'll pop some text into there as well and it will save our lesson now. Once your lesson has been saved, you'll notice that it crops up in your private workspace, and at this stage it is only visible to you. If you choose to move it into your My Schools content area, the other staff in your department and in the entire school and even your students will be able to see that lesson, and you'll be able to use it as you use every single other lesson on EP. So it's a really cool way of building something nice and quick that will engage your students in a different way, as opposed to some of the methods that we already use when it comes to poetry, like annotating, the physical copy of the poem, or simply reading it out together in class. By being able to create your own lessons, you can target students in their own independent space at home, and it's a great way to give them an opportunity to, voice that poetry without necessarily the confrontation of being around their classmates. So now that we've created that, just want to take you really quickly back to our dashboard, and you'll see here down in your newsfeed that the Poetry Slam is still live in the newsfeed. So please feel free to click find out more and register if your students haven't had a chance to get in there just yet. Alternatively, if you go into your content library, the lesson is right up the top in our blue folder section. You'll see it's called the Poetry Slam Challenge. We really look forward to the kids submitting their responses. The prizes are pretty amazing. Not only will your students be engaging in poetry by submitting their own original poem, but it will, our first prize is 2 tickets to the Australian Poetry Slam final, and that's based here in Sydney. So wherever they are in Australia, we will bring them over here to Sydney to watch that. The second prize is hosting a poetry slam at your school, and the third prize are some really wonderful poetry biographies and anthologies. So get the kids involved. We look forward to seeing their entries, and stay tuned for term 4.